What actually is poop?
Good question.
So we have these chemicals coming out of it that stink to us or disgust to us, but what actually is poop?
Yeah. So a good proportion of poop is actually microbes, both living and dead. And there have been various experiments where they've tried to, researchers have tried to come up with, what's the percentage. But typically it's around 40 to 50% of the dry weight of poop is actually microbes. And why that's interesting and useful is that is essentially a sample of your inner microbiome.
Okay.
So, we have a tremendous diversity of microbes living inside of us, primarily bacteria, but also viruses, also archaea, sometimes fungi as well. And so I liken it to kind of like a rainforest in miniature, because you have predators, you have prey. It's really fascinating, and they're all kind of living in this kind of coexistence and in this habitat that we've created for them.
Yeah.
And doing some remarkable things. So it's essentially a sample of what's going on inside. And that can tell us a lot of things about diet. As well, fiber from plants. So you're going to have both soluble and insoluble fiber. And of course, that depends on your diet. So if you eat a diet that's high in fiber, you're going to have more. And as a result, you're going to have bulkier poop.
Right.
If you eat a diet that is very low in fiber, then you'll probably tend to have much smaller weight. And then you have a number of nutrients. So the nutrients that we take in, we use a lot of them, but then we expel a lot of the other ones. So things like phosphorus, things like nitrogen, potassium. And it turns out that these are really great nutrients for plants.
Okay.
And what's really interesting is that it goes beyond the synthetic fertilizers, because when you think of synthetic fertilizers, you think about phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen. Those are usually the three. We are much more of a complete plant food, essentially, right? So feeding the plants, but also conditioning the soil. And so that characteristic has actually been extremely useful when you think about reuse for things like compost. Because it's it's plant food. Yeah. But it's also soil conditioner.
Right.
So those are sort of the main things. The microbes, obviously water, most of it, probably 3/4 is water. But then the microbes, the fiber, the nutrients, and then some assorted odds and ends. Sometimes pharmaceuticals or chemicals. Depending on what we've ingested.